a lot of people in my audience are not going to understand why you can't just store your money in dollars. I have a whole tirade about it, but I'd love to hear why. How do you explain to people why you can't just put your money in a bank account or under your mattress in dollars?
The simple answer is the supply of dollars expands about 7% a year, every year for the past 100 years. And what that means is that if you want to buy something that is a very scarce, desirable asset that the government can't make more of and that manufacturers can't make more of, if technology and capital and machinery and robots can't make more of it, it's scarce and desirable. Here's an example. An acre of beachfront property in Palm Beach, or a beachfront house in the Hamptons, or waterfront property in Miami Beach. That's a desirable place to live. You can't make more of it. And if you go back 100 years, you'll see that the value of that acre was $10,000. And you go forward 100 years, and that is about $10 million. And for those who are very quick at math, they'll realize that works out to 7% increase in price every year for 100 years. And that's why, that's why people buy houses for $100 million on the beach in Palm Beach. And my house, the house that I'm in right now, it was sold in 1930. And I have the deed on my wall. And it was sold for $100,000 in 1930. If you'd put that $100,000 in a vault and you kept it safe and sound for the 90 years, and if you took it out, it would pay about 8 to 12 weeks of my property tax on this house. Like you literally couldn't keep the house for 8 weeks. Go ahead.
Let me say it in my way. Tell me if this resonates with you. The reason that you can't store your money in cash is that the government steals your buying power by printing more of it. I find it's very sobering to look at it as theft. Does that resonate with you, or do you think I'm being hyperbolic?
No, you're correct. In essence, the inflation of the dollar supply means that your wealth is cut in half every 10 years if you hold all your wealth in cash. And it's the rule of 72, right? You divide 7% into 72. That's the half-life of the asset. So the half-life of your wealth is 10 years if you store it in cash. If someone gives you an asset you can invest in that goes up 7% a year, you're keeping up with inflation. You're not getting wealthier, but you're not getting poorer. You're just treading water, And if you're beating that hurdle rate, then you're getting a bit wealthier. So once you understand that, you can see that you can't preserve your wealth for long periods of time in a fiat currency. And the best fiat currency in the world, Tom, is the dollar. But in most other currencies, they inflate at 14% a year. And that means the half-life of your wealth is 5 years.
Michael Saylor does what he does best and drops a bombshell relating to his company's strategy and its increasing holding of Bitcoin. Saylor now holds a staggering 478,740 Bitcoins as part of the company's portfolio. How will this affect Bitcoin's value going forward? What does Saylor say more about all of this? One way to find that out. Welcome back, everyone, to Investocracy Crypto.
Okay, so in America, you got to keep in mind, you're an American. You live in the greatest country of the last 100 years. America won every war, right? We were the winner of World War I. We got richer. We were the winner of World War II. We never lost a war. We were the winners of the century. Our currency lost 99.9% of its economic power over the 100 years. But if you went to Nigeria or like Germany, the currency crashed like 2 or 3 times, right? In Japan, the currency crashed, In Russia, it crashed last time the Russian currency crashed in 98. The Brazilian currency crashed completely 25 years ago. The Argentine currency crashed about 4 times in 100 years. So if you're an Argentinian and you're 30 years old, you already know what it's like to have hyperinflation because you lived the entire cycle. It's just Americans don't. And so if you're taking advice from an American business person like Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger, Well, I mean, they didn't live through the Weimar Republic. They didn't live through the collapse of the current. By the way, the currency collapsed in Venezuela. It collapsed in Argentina. It collapsed in Brazil. It collapsed in Cuba. It collapsed in Russia. It collapsed in every single country in Africa. You see? And so foreigners actually get it a bit better, right? It's like the bank's going to take your money. The currency's going to zero. The government's going to promise you it'll be okay and tell you to put your money in the bank. Then they're going to inflate the currency, freeze your bank account, crash the currency, and then tell you it's worthless. That's what happened in Cyprus not too long ago, if you want to go and Google that. And so the real promise of Bitcoin is very simple. It's a bank in cyberspace that won't steal your money. And it's an asset that you can store your life savings in that nobody can debase or corrupt. And those are two powerful promises for the first time in the history of the human race. No one ever gave you those two promises ever before now.
Strategy has aggregated 478,740 bitcoins, investing approximately $31.1 billion, equating to an average of $65,033 per bitcoin. These numbers might make you double-take and perhaps even reconsider the phrase cryptocurrency volatility. Far from following the mutable fates of the market, Strategy has maintained its course, reporting no additional Bitcoin purchases in the week leading up to February 17, 2025. The insight came from Saylor himself while preaching about holding Bitcoin.
I know a lot of people are clutching their pearls right now about Bitcoin being referred to as risk-free. So can you break down for us the difference between that volatility and then how you can have the confidence to look at this and say, no, the risk is merely a timeline question? Because I think a lot of people will take exception to that.
Yeah, so, well, the dollar is zero ARR, zero volatility. That is to say, the dollar goes up 0% against itself each year, and the dollar is zero volatility against itself each year. So if you're on the dollar, you're living in flat land, and you're a stationary person in flat land, a pedestrian in flat land. Bitcoin is going up 60% a year against the dollar. How long? Well, since MicroStrategy made its first investment 4 years ago, it's 60%. But if you stretch back 6, 8, 10 years, I think it's also 60%. So like a decade. But you can measure it back a decade and you see it's going up 60% a year. And it's 60 volatility. It's a 60 vol against the dollar. So you should think of Bitcoin as an asset. It's like you're on a speeding train going 60 miles an hour. And you've got a flywheel spinning 60 RPM. And the pedestrian on flat land is standing on the plane watching the train go by, thinking this is scary. It's going to suck the oxygen out of my lungs. And they're thinking, my money isn't an asset because it goes up 0% a year. So they have a different view toward money than the view of someone on the Bitcoin train. The person with $1 million of cash is going to have $1 million of cash in a decade. A person with $1 million of Bitcoin is going to double their capital every 18 months if they just hold on to it, right? And so they're going to double it once, twice, 3, 4 times at that rate, right?
For Saylor and his team, it's a calculated move driven by a long-term vision. Even when Bitcoin prices dipped below $96,000, there was no flinch, no hasty bids to amend the seemingly relentless strategy. Saylor's bullish perspective isn't just rhetoric. He envisions scenarios where Bitcoin soars to astronomical heights, $13 million in a potential dreamy ascent, a bull case projection at $49 million, and, should things turn bearish, a floor of a whopping $3 million. But before going any further, if you made it this far into the video, thank you. These videos take a lot of effort and time to make, so if you enjoyed them, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. This goes a long way in helping us grow. That said, back to the video.
Going up slightly today, but still well below those record levels north of 108, 109,000. Strategy's Michael Saylor speaking at the FII Institute's Bitcoin Town Hall earlier this afternoon. That stock, formerly MicroStrategy, down as Saylor dove into the company's crypto approach. CNBC's Mackenzie Sagalos joins us now for the highlights of the Saylor speech. Mackenzie, what can you tell us?
So, Dom, Michael Saylor's Bitcoin talk in Miami today was very much focused on how the digital asset is the ultimate form of economic energy, calling it a profound breakthrough in property rights and wealth preservation. Now, he emphasized that in today's financial system, Bitcoin, alongside the U.S. dollar, is one of the few assets that truly avoids risk. Institutional investors have certainly started to buy in, tripling their holdings of spot Bitcoin ETFs last quarter, pushing the total market cap of these funds to $115 billion, something that Saylor called a revolution in finance. Now, the Bitcoin ETF launch did shatter records as one of the most successful in ETF history, and the pipeline isn't slowing down. New funds combining Bitcoin exposure and options are expected later this year. Still, shares in Strategy ended the session down more than 4.5%, and they're off more than 18% in the last month. Now, that's as Saylor reaffirmed his company's aggressive Bitcoin buying strategy, raising $42 billion, half equity, half debt, solely for Bitcoin purchases. Strategy stock has dropped alongside crypto as Trump trade euphoria fades, and investors shift focus to the Fed's caution on inflation and stalled rate cuts.
So, if you're contemplating where to anchor your investments, consider the strategy of none other than, well, Strategy. Their resilience amid fluctuating Bitcoin prices is not just testament to their prowess, but an invitation for potential investors to navigate this bold journey with them. But what do you think? Share your thoughts. And finally, if you would like to know more about cryptocurrencies, or specifically Bitcoin, go ahead and click on the next video on your screen. See you there.